Hello, everyone, and welcome to another episode of Tell Your Story. I'm your host, Todd Nesloni, and each week I look to bring you a different guest who has encouraged, inspired, or challenged me in one way or another and bring them on to share some of their story in hopes that it inspires you to share some of yours. I'm thrilled for this week's guest, Megan Martin, on with me. Megan, thanks for being here. Tell everybody who you are.
Of course, I'm so excited to be here. My name is Megan Martin, and I am an instructional coach in Dallas, Texas. I am at a middle school, which is new for me. I'm used to the elementary world, so this is actually my first year amongst all the craziness that already is with this 2020. But I'm loving it and excited to be here.
Awesome. Well, anytime I have a guest on, I always like to start back at the beginning of your journey. And that is, when you were a kid growing up, dreaming of what you were going to be when you became an adult, was educator anywhere even on that list?
Yeah, so okay, I feel like educator was on the list and then kind of left the list for a hot minute and thankfully came back. So
Yeah.
I was the kid who, I got an overhead projector from Santa Claus in the third grade and asked for the transparencies from my teachers when they were done with them and took them
Uh-huh.
home and taught my stuffed animals and was always the person who wanted to help and wanted the extra worksheets to, bring back and play teacher.
Yeah.
And so that was kind of all elementary school. And I'm a very planner type A personality. And so my parents kind of really thought that was always where I was going to go until junior year of high school. I don't know what randomly inspired me to decide to apply for college. And in the biology program at UT. So I applied for University of Texas and went my first semester into biology, did all the classes, thinking that I wanted to be a dentist. And I really think that that comes from my grandfather, who was a dentist. And so I, did all the classes, thought it was okay, but never really felt passionate about it, and called my parents middle of first year of college, so middle of freshman year, and said something is wrong.
Uh-huh.
I do not like this. I'm not happy. I don't find that this is me. And so my mom was like, okay, well, what are you going to do next? And I said, I think I have to be a teacher. And my mom said, yep. And she was like, we've literally all been waiting for you to say it. And she said, we have bets across the whole family of when you were going to figure it out that, being a dentist is not your calling. And it's so funny because I now have discovered through being a teacher, and especially with those littles, that I hate teeth. Like,
Yeah.
they scare me. I hate when they fall out. I hate when the children bring them up like a prize and say, look, my tooth fell out. And
Uh-huh.
so I firmly believe it was the Lord saying, Megan, I got other plans for you.
Well, and
So,
I'm sure your parents were very happy that you figured it out in your first year of
oh
college and
yeah.
not your last year of college.
Absolutely. And so after calling my mom, I actually called my grandmother, who has been an administrator and a special education teacher and works in Arkansas for teachers now, and has just really inspired me. I called her, who she's married to the dentist grandfather, and she
Aw.
said, she was like, we kind of knew too, but I'll wait for a while to tell Papa. Like, I'll let him down easy that you're not going to be a dentist. But so it's been a fun story. I think everybody always knew though. And I think
Yeah.
now that I'm in it and I'm 7 years in it, this is where I've always wanted to be and where I'm supposed to be. So I love it.
Now, you spent most of your 7 years in elementary. When you knew you were gonna be a teacher, did you know instinctively, "I'm already drawn immediately to the elementary age," or did you kinda grow into that?
I think I knew elementary. I was actually thinking much lower than I actually started. I began in a fifth grade classroom
Uh-huh.
with science, social studies, and reading and writing. So it was kind of a mix of everything. But when I first got hired, I remember being nervous about fifth grade. I remember thinking they were too big. I'd student taught in kindergarten and second grade, and I really saw myself in second or third grade. But I just, I knew that the school was right for me and that I wanted that opportunity. So I
Yeah.
started in fifth grade, did a couple years there, and then actually went to second grade after that. and then got to loop up with some kiddos into third grade. So I've
I
kind of been
love the looping.
all over. Yeah. And it was fun. And I remember at the end of the year when I figured out that I was going to get to go to third, I like dropped a banner and told them like, we're all going to third grade. And they were, I mean, it was so cute and it was fun. And you got to know them as little people and little learners. And it was so neat. But then after that third grade year, I'd been working on my master's the whole time. And so that was when I got the opportunity to be a campus reading specialist at another elementary. So it's been an exciting journey, but an all over the place one for sure.
Now, I've got to ask a question that I know, anytime people like you or I move out of the classroom and into other opportunities, one of the biggest questions we always get is like, how did you know it was time? Or what kind of told you that this is the next step for you? So what was that for you? What was that deciding thing that you were like, yeah, this is what I want to go try next?
So I've always been fortunate to have really strong instructional coaches and reading specialists and math specialists that I've gotten to work with. And so when I first applied for my master's in educational leadership, I kind of had people to guide me along and kind of just help along that process. And I knew immediately when I started that program that I would need a variety of grade levels, which was why my fabulous principal at the time suggested going down to second grade and then moving up to third. So she was really helpful in that plan. And then after that third grade year, because I was only there 1 year, and I love the age of third grade kiddos. They are so ready for anything. And, it's that in Texas, it's that first year where they take STAR for the first time. And so they're just, they're really digging into learning, and you're kind of shifting to the reading to learn phase, and it's really fun with them. But I think after that year, I'd finished my master's program in December of when I taught third grade, and then had a principal, then a new one, tell me, this is the year for you to kind of be looking for opportunities because our district had some shift and some changeover. And I was really, really nervous because I'd felt that, I loved my third grade classroom. I liked my team. I was really getting along with everybody and felt like we were going to have something for a while. But this opportunity for the campus reading specialist, which was my first role out of the classroom, just kind of presented itself and was one of those things where the timing was right. I was nervous at first, but I think one of the things that I'd actually prayed for was I was like, okay, if I am gonna do this, I'm gonna know that it's gonna be right, and it's not gonna be me trying to make something happen. Because I think so often when people leave the classroom, it's because of some sort of frustration or 1 year of struggle. And with me, it was something that I'd kind of set my sights on from the first or second year of teaching, where I knew that admin and coaching and leadership was something that I'd wanted. So that timing just ended up perfectly. And it's a really funny story. And it ends up that I got a phone call from a person who was working at the school I ended up going to, and she knew me from a friend of a friend and said, okay, I know you're probably going to get other opportunities, but here's your new home. This is your new school. Let me just tell you about it. And here's all of us. And and by the way, come and interview. And so I was kind of like, I remember telling my now husband, like, that just seemed right. The phone call with her just seemed right. The interview seemed right. It felt like home. It felt like I was going to leave the classroom and be okay. Because I think so often we've got people who leave the classroom in roles and just, you always miss the classroom. There's a part of me that loves now being able to go back in and model and help and coach teachers and co-teach. But it felt like that moment was right. And so I've been fortunate enough to kind of get those signs and have really strong people along my journey. And that girl who made that phone call is actually my coworker right now and sits in the desk next to me at our second school together. It's really cool. And it's a testament to building relationships, not only with your kids along the way, but with your team and with your coworkers and networking, because that's so important, just to, find like-minded people. And I think especially when we get out of the classroom and your colleagues become not just your little people you're working with, but also more of adults. And it just becomes even more important to, build more relationships and get to know more people. And so they're the ones that call you then 2 years later and say, guess what? I have a new job for you. So it's really been it's been a good journey, and I love looking back on it. And I think this middle school jump this one was a scary one, because
Oh yeah.
for elementary,
Yeah.
my whole impression of junior high was, no, those are the kiddos that are right in the middle of all their growing, and that
Yep.
they've got all kinds of things happening, and I don't know. But I tell you now that I'm here, I love it. I love we have 7th and 8th at our school, and it's just, I think, again, I found a new home because
Yeah.
I'm lucky along that way. So
What I've said in
yeah.
many episodes and what I so believe is that sometimes when you like move up or you try different things, people are like, "Oh, well, don't you miss this or that?" And you're like, I can change my passions and still completely love what I was doing before. It doesn't mean that
Mm-hmm.
I'd love any less teaching third grade. It's just I've discovered this new passion of mine that I'm pursuing and growing in. And so, I'd love to know though, in the midst of these changes, and we're in the middle of a pandemic, and teachers and administrators are overwhelmed to the max, what do you do to help take care of yourself so that you can be your best for others?
Oh, that's a good question. I actually just got done sending out a newsletter to our staff about self-care and reminding yourself that you got to take care of you. I think what I normally do, and if you've ever done the Enneagram, I am a
Mhm.
type 3 to a T. I am the achiever. I am the one who has to feel like I'm on all the time. I give energy to others so often, which so many teachers do. All throughout the day, we're giving our energy to our colleagues and our bosses, and it's just my way of having to kind of get that energy back is just time literally doing nothing, which I have a
Yeah.
really hard time with.
Yeah.
But I was actually telling a coworker today, I said last Saturday I just kind of sat and watched 3 episodes of this TV show in a row, and I didn't get up off the couch, and I kind of felt weird about it, but I was really okay. And then afterwards, I
Uh-huh.
went on a run, and it was great. And I think it's just, with me, it's either time not focused on work or school, or working out. I love doing that. And I also love listening to audiobooks. I've discovered that that's
Oh
my
yeah.
new jam, and I love it. But I think really just anything that I can do that makes me smile. And I mean, from knowing you from conferences and stuff, I love to outwardly put a lot of energy outside, and teachers
Mhm.
do that all the time, but they've got to remind themselves, okay, how do I
Yeah.
fill my cup back up? And especially right now, because
Yeah.
you can see it and you can feel it.
Mhm.
And, you know, it's incredible though to see what's happening right now, because even though teachers are more tired than they have ever been, and this is a newer and changing by the day kind of year,
Mhm.
they're still putting it out there, and they're still putting the
Yeah.
energy in. And so it is the constant reminders I feel like we have to give of, have you done something for you today?
Mhm.
Or did you close your computer during lunch?
Yep. Yep.
Um, and I tell my new teachers all that. I get to work with the new teachers here, and I love that part of this job. But I tell them all the time too, you've got to do something at the end of the day, whether it's
Mhm.
you have an early day that you leave, my Tuesday day is my early day. And I leave early on Tuesday, or right on time, because teachers are also guilty of just staying here until they
Yep.
turn the lights off on you. So, and I know that
Yep.
you know that too, because it's just crazy.
Yeah, I tell administrators and teachers all the time now, turn your email off at 7 or 8 p.m. because there is never extremely important or good
Mhm.
email that comes after then. And otherwise they'll just keep you up all night worrying about it. But speaking of
Yep.
worrying about stuff, you also you attend a lot of conferences, you interact with a variety of educators, you're active on social media, and sometimes when we are in that realm, very quickly we become creatures of comparison, and we begin to doubt our own gifts that we bring to the table. And so when I look at people like you, I think, oh my gosh, they do this, 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 and this. But then I know that there are days that you have where you're like, oh my gosh, my stuff doesn't compare. Like, I wish I was like them. Like, what do you do to keep doubt from taking root in your own life?
Sorry, there's an announcement at school.
I love it. See, now this is
Eighth
proof
grade
that
girls
you're at
volleyball.
school getting this done. So there you go.
Yes, I mean, eighth grade girls volleyball needs to go to the gym right now. Um, but I think, sorry, it's a really long announcement apparently. I think with what this year has shown me a lot of is that, you know, sometimes we put all of our energy into school and into our kids and into our parent conferences and our colleagues and all that. And then, I mean, I am guilty. I had a time of going home and putting even more energy into social media and into what pictures looked like, and then looking and make sure I commented on other things and liked enough and responded to messages. And I think what this year showed me is that, you know, you get to a point where you have to become a priority. And it's hard to turn it off because you get on and you don't get off. And I've had many a night where I get on and I'm like, shoot, where did the last 45 minutes go? But I think it's just so situational. And what I wish that I could tell, because I've gotten questions in my inbox or in teachers that I work with that have seen, you know, teacher Instagram or teacher Twitter, and they're like, what do you do how do you start? And it's just, you know, it's every different piece of everybody's different school is so very different. And I think from working, this is my third school to work at. Your admin plays into your energy, your colleagues play into your energy, and your kids play into your energy. And it's just, I think this year has had to be a reminder to myself that when I get home, I want to be able to give energy to my husband and to working out and to doing other stuff like that. And so, I mean, I've even found that this year I've tried to prioritize other things besides social media just because you do fall into that trap. But I think what I like to see the Instagram world as is something where we can find ideas and resources and instead of that comparison. And, you know, I might see something from an elementary school teacher and try to figure out how I can do it here in middle school. And I think it also is for creating groups and connecting people, because I've found some of my best friends through Instagram and with Get Your Teach On and everything. It's just, I'm fortunate to be able to have had it utilized in that way. I just know it can be so tough. But I think seeing it more of a resource almost. I mean, we tell our teachers all the time, go do this PD, go do this, listen to this podcast if you want ideas, all kinds of things. And it's become something where if you have the right people and if you have the right things that you're looking at, it can absolutely be something that brightens your day rather than something that stresses you out or makes you compare. But yeah, especially with this year. So I got married in January. And so I've been not only in the quarantine world, but adjusting to newlywed life. So that's something that I think has helped me kind of turn it off too. Is that I have a whole other person that I now live with that I've got to put energy to at home. And so I think it's just, you know, I think if I could do a PD on it, on like how to use it effectively rather than negatively, because boy, can it get you down, but it sure can do great things and wonderful things.
I love that. And there were so many good nuggets of advice in there. So I hope people really pay attention to what you said. But, you know, Megan, as we wrap this conversation up, one question I always love to end on is I believe there are so many things that we hold close to our hearts or are true to who we are and the foundation of what we believe. And so if people listening today were to walk away with one thing, what's one thing you want to leave with them?
Oh, that is a good question. I think one thing I would want to leave with them is that this position, this job that we get to do every day is a blessing. It is a calling. Sometimes it is the most exhausting job. Sometimes we get home at the end of the day and wonder what in the world just happened the last 12 hours that we were at work sometimes. But if you are a teacher and if you are an educator, you're here because your heart is here and you're here because all in all, it's for the kiddos. And getting to be in this role where I am out of the classroom, I get to work with so many incredible teachers who, you know, you can see whether it is a 5-minute lesson or a small group or walking down the hallway, how much love there is. Ooh, I might start crying. How much love there is just for these kids. And that's really the biggest thing, is that we've got a responsibility for these kiddos. And, middle school has really shown me that too, because they're a little bit older and they have more real world conversations with you. And I've surprised myself with some of these kids, but I think the way that our educators are working, if we just keep going and keep loving on these kids and loving our jobs and being passionate about it, we're going to be just fine when they are out in the world.
I love it. Well, Megan, I have so been looking forward to this conversation and was so excited to get to feature you today on Tell Your Story. So thank you for coming and spending a few minutes with me.
Thank you. I'm so excited. It was great to talk to you.
And thank you everybody for listening or watching another episode of Tell Your Story. Remember, you can check out past episodes on iTunes, Spotify, SoundCloud, YouTube, wherever you get your stuff, it's there. I hope today's conversation with Megan has encouraged you to get out there and tell your story, because every story matters.